Where'd it go? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And again, I say to you, good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Tony, and welcome to the Return to Life theater series of Tea Time with Tony. I am very excited for this day, and I hope this morning has already found you happy, well, prosperous, and good health, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So I hope you're having a good day already. Okay, and if it didn't start the way that you wanted it to, I hope it does get better. And even if it did start the way you wanted to do, I hope it gets better even still. Okay, so I'm happy Saturday, everybody. Okay, so today is Saturday, September 11th. It is 10:03 a.m. And our good friends at the Weather Channel says that here in Riverside, California, it is going to be a nice, crisp sweater weather like 100 degrees. I am so over this heat, y'all. I'm done to the done with this heat. I know summer is a necessity. I know it's part of the situation and the order, but I am ready for fall. I am ready for fall. Now, out here in the Empire, we probably won't get a fall until, um, if we're lucky, October, maybe November. Okay, so definitely January. So we'll take our time. Okay, but anyway, I would like to also acknowledge the fact that there is always the always silent but ever present producer Mike, who is sitting right next to me, with whom this show would not work or run as nearly as smoothly, because you really don't want me holding all the controls. It would be a bad scene. So thank you, producer Mike. Well, he gives me the thumbs up. See, he doesn't even talk to me like when he's here. But anyway, okay. So let's just jump into it because we got a lot to cover today. I'm so excited about today's show. And I am above the moon, to be honest with you. But let's just jump right in. If today is your anniversary, if you're celebrating a wedding anniversary, dating anniversary, or whatever, happy anniversary to you. I hope it's fantastic, and I hope that he or she did not forget your special day. I hope it turns out great. Okay, if today is your birthday, happy birthday. Okay, I got a little birthday song for you. We used to sing at Bennigan's restaurant. I don't think it's even in existence anymore. When I used to be a server at the restaurant in Chicago way many years ago. But this is what we used to do. We would come to your table and we would say, "This is your birthday song. It isn't very long." And we just walk away. So if today is your birthday, there you got it. Somebody sung to you today. And you also share your birthday with a few notable celebrities. Taraji P Henson, actress of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which she was Oscar nominated. Obviously, Empire, she played Cookie Lion. She is 51 today. Uh, Rapper and actor Ludacris turns 44 today. Crooner, actor, all around kind of cool guy, Harry Connick Jr. turns 54 today. And reality TV star from most notably RuPaul's Drag Race, Ginger Minge, turns 37 today. Happy birthday to all those celebrities who will never see this birthday greeting, and happy birthday to you as you celebrate your special day. I hope it's fantastic in every possible way. I hope you spend it exactly the way you want it to. Okay, today in history. There was a lot going on in today in history, and there's no big secret about what this day is. But there's one other thing I would just like to share, because it was a groundbreaking film that scared a lot of men out of being unfaithful. In 1987, Fatal Attraction debuted in theaters. That movie scared a lot of folks, and poor Glenn Close people didn't even like her for years after that because they were afraid of her. But back in 1987, on September 11th, Fatal Attraction premiered. Which brings us to the next point. We all know, and I am observing it the best way I can with my little USA jersey. In 2001, on September 11th, a day that none of us will ever forget. Planes flew into the World Trade Center. There were 2. 4 assigned. 3 hit their marks. 1 hit the first Twin Tower, 1 hit the second Twin Tower, 1 hit the Pentagon, and they believe the 4th one, which missed this mark, was going to the Capitol building or the White House. There's still a lot of debate on that. But on that date, 2,977 people lost their lives. And I have to look at my notes here. I apologize. 2,996 of those were just regular people. And the other 19 were people who were coordinating attacks from Al-Qaeda. This is a day where America really realized that we weren't indestructible and or invincible. In layman's terms, this is the day that America was reminded that we can get God. And that was the day that we got God. And life never returned to normal after that. And today, I want to say that I do acknowledge that. I know a couple of people have asked me why I didn't cancel the show because of the observance of 9/11. And there are so many tributes all over social media, television that remember the day. I've seen all types of photos and stuff like that. And the reason I chose not to do it is simply just because we need to do what we did on that fateful day, and which is move forward and keep going. We need not to dwell too deeply. We need to never forget. Don't mishear me, ladies and gentlemen. We need to never forget what happened that day. Okay, what's the old saying? People who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Forget the past. I think I'm totally paraphrasing, but I think that's the sentiment of it. And I remember the day very vividly, as all of you do. Remember exactly what you were doing on that day. I don't want to forget that day, so I want to acknowledge that. To the victims, we do remember you. To the families of the victims, some of whom have still not completely recovered 20 years later. And we remember you as well. And in honor of this day of remembrance, which is now, I believe, has become Patriot Day, we would like to honor and acknowledge those who lost their lives and those who are still trying to rebuild their lives after that horrible day with a 30-second moment of remembrance. And here we go. All right. Thank you all for indulging me in that particular situation. And again, we remember this day, we honor this day, and we're grateful that America still stands. You know, with all this faults and flaws, we're still here. All right. So just a few more reminders. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will get to them as soon as we can. So I want to jump right in because I'm very excited about the 2 guests that I have on the show today. Okay. Both of whom have lived and worked in New York, one of whom is still living and working in New York. And this is part of the Return to Live Theater series. And I've known a lot of talented people in my life, and I still do. These 2 are certainly on that list. And I would like to welcome, as I can't stop smiling, please welcome to my little show, Tea Time with Tony, Mr. Frank Michelich and Chondra Prophet. So let's pop them on up, Mark, if we can. Mike, no, I missed your name.
Hello.
There they
Hello.
are. There
Hello.
they are. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. All right. So this right here is going to be all during the interview, by the way. It really is. I'm very excited to have you all here. It's a big honor. Because like I said this, and I didn't say that casually. You two are two of the most talented people that I know.
Thank you.
And I've shared a stage with both of you.
Mhm.
So I want to focus on you both. Okay. So, ladies first, because my parents
Mhm.
are Southern, so my mother would cut me from Chicago if I didn't do that. Okay. So I posted your bios on Facebook, but I wanted to hear from you. I didn't want to just go broke. I'm starting with you, Chondra. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you.
Good
Um,
to see you.
Now we've known each other for a long time. We and I eat it together. I can never remember the date of that show.
It had to have been. It had to have been 2009
Uh,
because I came because 2010 is when I went to work in Atlanta right before I moved to New York. So it had to be
Gotcha.
2000. It had to be 2009. I want to say
Okay.
like February, March 2009.
Okay.
Around that time.
Well, I probably could remember those days if I didn't have such a high intake of alcoholic beverages. However, I've known this young lady for a very long time. First time I met her was with Aida, and she played Nehepka.
Mhm.
Did I say that right?
You did.
I'm so proud of myself.
You
So
did.
proud of myself. Okay, but okay, so let's get back to you, young lady. What brought you to New York? What took you out there?
So initially, I came to New York because I was being seen for two at the time two Broadway shows. I was in callbacks for two different shows, and that is what brought me here. What kept me here was a storm.
mm,
In 2010, New York had the worst storm that they had in maybe like 20 years or something of that nature. And me being a California girl didn't know nothing about no darn storm and what to do in a storm, who you supposed to call, contact, anything like that. So the storm happens. It's like snow up to people's rooftops. And I mean, it's just horrible. And I'm like, well, I got a plane to catch. So what does that mean for me? Like, I didn't know. I didn't know you're supposed to call. I thought the airlines just, rebooks you. I know nothing. So by the time I actually call the airline, they're like, okay, well, the next flight is 7 days from now. And, you know, you need to just kind of figure it out. I'm like, what do you mean figure it out? At the time, I was 20, early 20s. And I was like, didn't know anything outside of mom and dad. And I didn't know. I was just like floored. And I kind of took a step back and I was just like, okay, God, like what's happening? And I called a friend of mine who was, I had two people that I knew here in New York. And at the time, they were a couple that I had worked with in Atlanta. And so I called them and I was just like, y'all, help. Like, what do I do? And so the guy was like, come here. Like, what do you mean? Come here. And so I stayed with him for a day or two. And then as staying there, I was just like, talking to myself and praying and doing all these things. And I was like, well, maybe this is a reason to stay. Maybe God is like going, like for me, he done made this whole storm for me to stay here. And I talked to my friend about it and I was just like, hypothetically speaking, like, what if I were just to stay? Is there anything that, we can work out or whatever? And it just so happened that his roommate and best friend was leaving to do a 9-month tour and was looking for somebody to sublease his apartment, his room. And so he was like, well, actually, he's leaving in like whenever the storm lets up. So if you want to stay, you can stay there. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. Like, how does that work?
I was going to ask that question.
And he was like, you'll get money. If you stay here, you'll get money. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, if you believe in me, I guess I need to believe in me. So literally, I called home and my mom and my siblings packed up my stuff and sent me what I needed, and the rest they put into storage. And I stayed and I grinded in the snow for a month and a half, and I booked. A funny thing happened on the way to the forum at the Paper Mill Playhouse, and from that, I sent like, this is old school. This is real old school. I sent postcards to casting and was like, hey, remember that time that you guys flew me in and it was horrible and nothing happened and blah, blah, blah. Well, I stayed and this is what I've been doing. And they called me in a week later after receiving my postcard and was like, oh my God, we were actually thinking about you and we wanted to like circle back. And literally, I was here probably 3 months and I booked my first Broadway show.
And on Broadway proper?
On Broadway proper. I booked The Lion King.
And you booked, see, wait a minute. Okay, let that land. 3 months in.
And grinding. I wish I had it in my hand, but I have a like I mean, this is real old school. People don't even do this anymore, but I had an audition book that literally you write down your audition, time, date, who was in the room, what you sang, like all this stuff, like you write it down. And I went through 2 full books of that in that 3 months period. I was auditioning for any and everything, who was right for me or wrong for me. I didn't care. I was trying to book casting directors, not parts.
Gotcha.
I wanted people to know who I was in the city. And literally from that, I've gotten so many workshops and smaller gigs just because casting directors call me directly instead of having to go through the whole gamut of like looking for you through an agent and all that kind of stuff. They just call me like, hey, we're doing a quick workshop for 2 days. Want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I booked The Lion King after being in New York for 3 months. And I was there for 10 years.
What role, because your resume says you played several different characters within that show. The first one you got booked for was what character?
So when I first got booked for the show, I was booked for what we call a swing in the show. And a swing, for people who may or may not know, but a swing is someone who covers multiple parts in the show. And so I covered all the singers in the show, and then I covered Nala and Sarabi. And those are, those were the main ones. And then after being a swing for a year and some change, they offered me Sarabi full time. But when they offered me Sarabi full time, because I was a swing, I kept all my swing stuff like under my belt. Like, not the ensemble work. I wouldn't jump in to do the ensemble work, but I would do Nala here and there. They would take me out of the show and fly me into different shows because I was a swing and I could, jump in really fast. And so I became what they call a universal swing for the company, meaning that I had my role and my part in my show, but they would take me out to fill in other places if they needed it. And they did all the time. And so before, marriage and baby and all that stuff, I would just go and pick up and go and be gone for, 14 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks at a time. And then, but I would always come back to New York proper and go back into my role as Sarabi once I came back. So it was an amazing run, an amazing time. I've learned so much. I've curated so many friendships and, long lifetime relationships that, they'll never get rid of me and I'll never get rid of them type people. And You know, it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life.
Mm.
But it's also one of those things is like, when do you leave?
Mhm.
When do you move on? Like when do you, and this pandemic has definitely opened my eyes to evolution of an artist and like being okay with moving on to different things and not feeling like you have golden handcuffs because you have a job and you want to stay in a job because you have a job, you know? And so thankfully um I decided not to go back after the pandemic, and I feel great about that decision. I feel great about that decision, and I'm ready to, you know, explore and move on and do different things. I mean, The Lion King has been around for 20, almost 25 years, and
Mhm.
when I went into the show, it was just about to celebrate their 15th year. And so they've already done everything. They've already done the Tonys. They've already done, you know, all the stuff that I could never do as an artist because the show is already long running. So I had to take myself out of that situation so that I can allow the doors to open for me for things that I want, like a Tony Award, or, you know, not, you know, or be in a conception of a new show. You know,
Right.
it's hard to do that when you're in a long running production. So I'm super, super thankful for it and all the love and lessons that has come with it. But I'm also super thankful for the mind to be able to move on and
Mhm.
know that the time has come to end it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm writing notes this because I'm coming back to some couple of
Yes.
questions and just letting you know. All right. So, Frank, this is someone
Yeah.
I've known for 2 decades easily.
Mm.
And he said it was said we went to Cal back. Was it college when you went there, or had it become a university already?
The day I graduated, they came. So I graduated in '98. And when we were lining up to go out, they came in and announced to us that we would be the first graduating class of CBU University.
Got it. Okay,
So,
because when
yeah.
I came, yeah, because I came in, it was a college and graduated
Right.
with the university as well. So Frank and I have known each other for more than 20 years.
Mhm.
He says this was okay. Frank used to come. Oh, didn't we have American government together?
We might have.
Because I feel like you came into that class in your pajamas.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I did.
I thought he did. He did. He did. And he said it was okay for me to tell the story because I
Yeah.
told the story to a bunch of students a while ago and they never let him forget it. Um, but Frank has never, as long as I've known him, been someone. Frank has always recognized the box and he will look at the box and say, "Oh, that's cute. So let's do this though." Um, so Frank has always been that guy. But now you're a professor
Yeah.
at CBU and a director and an actor and a
Mhm.
damn good one, by the way. Again, we were in Joseph. We were in Joseph in Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat
Yeah.
together. I was one of the brothers. I see what I did there. Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
brothers. And Frank was one of the brothers as well. Frank, let's start with the acting part.
Sure.
Okay. Where did your love of acting come from?
Oh, that's a great question. I have been telling people since before I can remember that I wanted to be an actor. My grandmother told me that she took me to see a movie when I was 3, and I came out of the movie and said, "What is that? I want to do that." I don't remember that, but that's what people have told me. And so all growing up, I told people I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't actually start doing theater until I was 15. The funny thing is, in the early days, looking back on it now, I'm not sure I wanted to be an actor. I think I just wanted to be famous. And as I started to act in high school and then especially in college, I fell in love with theater. And then it became less about being famous and more about, I just love doing this and I will do whatever it takes to spend more time in a theater. So that's why I kind of tried to diversify and act, direct, write, produce, like whatever I want to be in a theater all day, every day. Yeah.
So I'm going to direct this. I'm going to give you a few minutes to cue your answer up, Chondra, based on what Frank just said, because you wear a lot of hats. And anyone who knows anything about live theater is that you never do just one thing. You're going to always do something else, whether you want to or not, especially if you start in local theater. You know, you may have to go on stage in 5 minutes, but you're zipping somebody up, or you're making sure the prop is what's supposed to be, because you want everything to run smoothly. So you do wear a lot of different hats, which you do, Frank. You're an actor, you're a director, you're a playwright as well. Do you prefer one over the other?
It's interesting. The majority of my career, I would have said acting. So I spent 10 years in New York, and definitely that whole time I considered myself an actor. When I got back to California after New York, because of my work at CBU, I had more doors opening to me as a director, and I had to remind people that I was an actor. And then there was a bunch of acting opportunities that came back, but now I love it all. I love it all. I just love the American theater, and I just want to do whatever I can to serve, support, and build the theater. So whatever, if that's a producer, if that's a writer, if that's the guy who vacuums the lobby floor, I just want to be in the theater. So, yeah.
Chondra, is the same true for you?
That is evolving as well since the pandemic specifically. Prior to the pandemic, I was definitely already having the producer hat on. I do a little bit of directing, but it's not something that I've had a lot of time to do, honestly. But it is something that I'm super, super passionate about and want to explore more. But the producing thing has really like taken me by the neck and kind of like pulled me because I have a deep passion for Black artists and getting their stories told and produced and like brought to light. And I'm so in layman's, like, not trying to be disrespectful at all, but I'm just over the same stories being told.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really, really trying to put love and resources and whatever behind people. I know so many beautiful artists that their work never leaves the computer. Never, ever leaves the computer. Barely even gets printed out and gets read amongst friends, So I'm just trying, I'm trying to position myself with different people that will help myself and others really get our stories told. And so the producing has kind of taken over the acting, the everything. It has kind of taken its place because I'm very, very passionate about that aspect of it, and there's not a lot of people who are. So
And I appreciate what you said, because you and Frank are probably in the same book on that page, because Frank has never liked just the same old thing. Like when you go to any local theater or even Broadway, can be, and guilty is not the right word, but fall into this trap of what things are going to bring in money. What shows are just the staples. You're going to do those shows. A lot of people are not willing to take those steps outside of those boxes,
right.
and tell stories that people may not know.
I also come from a house of, like, my mother was a community theater director, and that's the back to the basics that I know, basic. And my mom I can remember being super, super young, and she would stay up and write plays and musicals and stuff just so that she could produce them herself, because she wanted to be able to include that group of kids that never get to do anything, that are always sitting outside, in front of the house playing kickball or something. Like, she just wanted things for them to do. And so that's kind of like something that I always tell people, that my love for the arts was like a forced passion, because my mom did it. And it was kind of like, all that I saw for such a long time. But now that I'm older and I'm really, really have a love and passion for it, I realized that my mom was just like watering the seed in me that now has grown and is growing into this, beautiful blossoming tree of like really wanting to help and really get our stories told and produced. And the thing about that also is like it doesn't have to be produced on the biggest realm. Like it doesn't have to be a Broadway show. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where people miss the mark, is that stories being produced can be as small as a box theater, a little theater, outside theater, at amphitheater. Like it doesn't have to be on these broad stages for a story to be told. And so that's really where my focus is right now.
You both, obviously, Chondra, you're still in New York. Frank, quick question. How long did you live in New York? How long were you there?
A decade.
You were there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Can you remember what years?
Yeah, I remember very specifically. I've been thinking about it today because I moved to New York a month before 9/11, so 2001. And then we moved back January of 2011.
Okay.
Wow.
Because LA is not, we have theaters here, but LA is a movie. Who is trying to get to New York. Because Chondra, you said that you were out here and being looked at by people in New York. Frank, so I guess this question is for both of you. How are you both getting contacts from New York and wanting to be seen when you are on a completely different coast?
Oh, well, my story is a little bit different because I went to New York to go to graduate school to get my MFA in acting at Columbia University. So graduate school is what brought me to New York, which was the 3 best years of my life. It was absolutely amazing. And then because graduate school was in New York, that was the city where I had developed all my contacts. So then it just made sense to stay. Yeah.
Chondra.
But I keep going back to the basics, old school. Like I literally, prior to getting contacted from people in the New York area, I would I would mail headshots. And I mean, this is real. I don't even know if people print out headshots anymore. Let's start there. But I would print out headshots and I would send resumes to casting, to different directors. Or there used to be a I don't even know what it's called, but there used to be like a book that had all the directors, casting directors, different agencies. I mean, it had all of their information that you could get their mailing address, get their email address. That was like coming up. Like people didn't really have email addresses back then, but get their email addresses or whatever. And then you could submit to them however you saw fit, a postcard, mailing them your resume, a picture of resume. And I did that for the longest time. And then randomly I would get calls. And then I also, a lot of people don't really fancy this, but I don't know why, but I would talk to friends and people who I knew were going back and forth or had lived in New York for a period of time. And I would just be like, hey, do you have any contacts out there still? Or do you know anybody or whatever? And most people are willing to be like, well, yeah, here's my old agent, or here's my such. And I would contact them too. I definitely, if you did a inventory of every agent or casting director, they probably all have some type of correspondence from Chondra Prophet, okay? Right. Because I was like, that was really important to me, of just like making my presence visible to them, even though I wasn't on this coast, hadn't planned on this coast, didn't even have money to get to this coast at the
Hmm.
time. And it worked in my favor. I was doing, oh God, what's the name of the show? Um, Storyville. I was doing Storyville in San Diego, and most of the cast was flown in from New York. And that was like, all I saw was doors busting open. All these people came through the door. I was like, I'm about to get to know you. I'm about to get to know you. I'm about to get to know you. And the truth be told, those are some of my best friends still right now to this day. But because of them and like me, like picking their brain for everything they knew and had, like they told me everything I needed, and was part of the reason. Two of my girlfriends, Palen Anise and Natalie Watchin, are two of my best friends from that show. But they're the reason why I really had success in New York, because
Hmm.
they were just like, no, you have to do this. Let me, you call this, make sure you always have that, blah, 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 all this stuff. And my first real New York callback was on a show that they had been working on, that they just was like, want to crash a audition?
Hmm.
So I was thinking, I was like, girl, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So I think overall, it's about, people talk about talent and all this stuff, but I really believe that being successful in any industry is about how you are personable, like talking to people, being able to have conversations, being memorable, to people, because they'll just think of you and call you out of the blue, versus looking through a whole bunch of paperwork trying to find people. They're gonna be like, you know what, I remember that girl Chondra who like sent me 18 postcards. Remember her? Let's call her and see if she'll want to come in.
See, that's a great lead up to my next question. Starting with you, Frank, and then with
Hmm.
you as well, Sandra. What is people's most common misconceptions about? Because you teach,
Hmm.
Frank. What is their most common misconception about pursuing a career in theater on any level? Doesn't have to be an actor, or director, or playwright, but any level. What is the most common misconception that you have discovered? Because most people just get
Mm.
seduced by the light, and we all
Right.
know the stage is intoxicating, the applause is intoxicating, but what is the most common misconception for people pursuing a career?
Well, I think it goes back to what Chandra just said. Like the life that she just described as she was talking, I'm like, that was me for, I mean, grad school was 3 years, and then I graduated, and then I was in New York for another 7 years. And everything she just described was my experience. Back then, well, I won't go into what you did back then. I'll answer your question and then I'll go into it. But I think the common misconception is that 90% of your job is performing and 10% of your job is finding work. And it's actually the opposite, right? Um, Maybe even 95% of your job is finding work. And then occasionally you get to do the work, right? And it's tough as a theater professor, because as a theater professor, I would say 90% of my time is spent training young artists on how to do the work. And I only have about 10, maybe 15% of my time where I can train them in the business of it. But when they get to whatever metropolitan area that they're going to, the business of it is what they're going to be doing 90% of the time. So yeah, I think it's that.
Chandra.
That, Frank, I agree with you 100%. I always tell when I do workshops or anything like that, I always try to carve out time for the business of the arts, because we definitely forget about that part. And another big thing that I try and teach as well is that a big misconception is that directors and casting directors and whomever is on the opposite side of the table is against you or not for you. And a lot of people come into auditions kind of already defeated, because they feel like, they're trying to win these people. But I try and teach that these people that you see in auditions are the more for you than you think or
Right.
realize. You know, not only if you are you know, you hold up to your resume and you are really great, you make them look good
Mhm.
when they bring you into a room. So I try to, you know, make a curve to that misconception of that. Like the casting director is like probably the best person to have on your back, because the casting director wants you to win
Right.
100%, you know. And so the business and that casting directors are on your side is pretty much a big misconception that I try to always.
Mhm. Yeah.
That makes complete sense, because I always feel like when you're going on a job interview, they want to hire the right person. They want you to succeed. They don't want you to have a bad interview. They want to get this one and done. They want to be able to look at you and say, that's the person right there I want for this job. And it's going to be great. But they don't want you to fail, you
Mm.
know, and so that makes complete sense to me. Let me ask you about mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. What did you do in your career that you thought, oh, boy, I wish I could turn the clock back on that particular situation, and never do it again? What mistake did you make that you would say, don't ever do this because this is what happened to me? Do you have one of those?
Only one.
Only one.
Yeah. I'll go first. I really encourage my students to do, if a student comes in and they're like, I just want to do musicals, or I just want to do film, or I just want to do straight plays, I'm trying to get the kids that just want to do straight plays to do musicals, and the kids that aren't interested in films. You got to do it all. And in the early days of my career, I was doing musicals, never really great at it, but I was doing it. And then I started to get a lot of success in Shakespeare. And there was a couple year period where I was just traveling around the country working in Shakespeare festivals. And I let the, oh, you're really good at this, get to me. And I dropped the thing that I wasn't all that great at, which was musicals. And I regret that, because if you're going to work in this business, you got to do it all. You got to do it all. And so that would be my answer. Yeah.
Chandra.
That's great. I agree 100%. You know, I honestly, I feel like I have made minor mistakes within my career, but they've all been like real learning things. So I don't call them mistakes anymore. But something that I've learned along the way has been, um, you know, opportunity meets preparation all the time.
Amen.
And when you walk into a space and you are prepared, there is nothing better than meeting artists that are coming into a room prepared to work
Mhm.
versus coming into a room prepared to learn. It's a big difference, because if you're learning material on the spot, or at, you know, once you get there, you have no room to play. You have no room to grow this character or merge this character with the other people that you're working with now. So something that I've learned completely, you know, on the way that has evolved tremendously is like when I walk into a room, there's nothing about this character that I can't tell you.
Mhm.
Now, once we get in the room as a director, you can tell me whatever you want. But you know, there's not. As me, the artist, doing my work at home, I've learned to completely prepare so that when I walk into a room, I can play, because that's what
Mhm.
we want to do. We want to play. We want to evolve. We want to grow. We want to learn. We want to be comfortable enough in the material to do that. And you can't do that if you're learning it while you're working.
Right.
That's like my biggest thing.
A friend of mine who works in that, she says when I've been directed by her on stage, she used to always say, "You want to get those scripts out your hands as soon as possible because once those go away, then you can play."
Yeah.
So that really reinforces what she was trying to teach us. Because you tied to this piece, this booklet, you can't use your full body. You can't use your eyes because you keep looking at for the words and you try. So that makes absolute sense. Are you both still training in any level? Are you taking voice lessons? Are you going to acting classes? Anything like that still?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
I'm currently not taking acting classes, but I am constantly
But you're teaching so that you're learning
right.
it.
Yeah, I'm learning. Well, yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm learning in class. I get you know, classes of 16 little guinea pigs every where I'm playing and learning, but also I'm constantly reading and constantly researching because there are areas like producing is a new area for me. So I'm trying to get to the level of knowledge that I feel like I have as an actor now as a producer. So constantly learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. I think I try to at least take some type of class once a week, and
Mhm.
it being virtual has just made things a lot easier, with just being able to jump in a class, or even like there's what's it called, Udemy, I think it's the
Mhm.
site, and it's just like it's pretty much like workshops or classes or anything you could ever think of that you want to work on. You can go on there. It's not live. It's all like module type classes, and you can say, hey, I want to take a 30-minute class on Shakespeare. I want to take a 10-minute class on interviewing, like whatever it is. So I kind of spend time on there once a week and try and take something. And the classes are super inexpensive. Like you can get $11, $12 class, something like that.
Mhm.
Like really inexpensive. But yeah, I try to stay on it. And something Frank said earlier about being completely like knowledgeable in all aspects of artistry. That's something that I work on continuously as well because
Mhm.
yeah, I am a musical theater artist. I have been doing musical theater for 25 years. But
Mhm.
as an artist, you are so multifaceted. You're so you know every artist, they want you to be able to do everything. And so I definitely have, since being in New York, have definitely started doing everything: dance classes, music classes. Something I told my mom when I was younger is that she made us take piano, and then we all hated it. Me and my siblings, we hated every moment of it. And she was like, okay, like you finished, I paid for whatever it was, like, I paid for the first 3 months, and then after that, whatever. I wish my mom would have been like, no,
Mhm.
you are going to stay in this because it's a discipline. It teaches
Mhm.
you discipline, and it's a discipline that you can use later in your career in any facet. And so that just makes, I think about that all the time, and then it makes me like really hone in on like other things that I'm trying to learn as an adult, and just like trying to
Mhm.
stick with it. Like I'm not the best at Shakespeare, but I try to read Shakespeare plays all the time, or I watch it on television, or on a series. PBS has stuff all the time on
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
with Shakespeare and stuff. So I just try to like immerse myself in it so that even if it does come around in a small facet, I'm not just like, wait, what's happening?
Mhm.
So it is something that I definitely try to keep up on. Something weekly, whatever it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
We have a question, which I'm glad we do. I'm going to ask you. I just want to remind anyone who may be watching, if you have any questions for these two talented individuals, you get in the master class, shoot me a question, and you got them right here, and I'll ask them for you. This question is for the both of you. It says, "What projects, acting or directing,
Hmm.
are still on your bucket lists?"
Oh my goodness, that's a really good question. Um, well, I have one that um, I'm a producing director for the Courtyard Shakespeare Festival, which is an Inland Empire Theater Shakespeare Festival that California Baptist University produces on our campus. We turn this beautiful courtyard into a 150-seat outdoor amphitheater. And when COVID isn't a reality, we do 2 shows and rotating rep with the same group of actors. And I have an ambition. I want that Shakespeare Festival to at some point be able to say we've done the entire canon. Shakespeare's entire canon. And a lot of Shakespeare theaters, there's a handful of plays they don't get to. They keep circling back to Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night, and those are all great plays. But I want to say we've done it all. So that's a goal I have.
Lady Chondra.
I have a few bucket list items that are on my list of things to do, but I think ultimately I just want to be able to create a leading lady, do a show that I am the leading lady, and create it from top to bottom with the show. There's so many shows. I mean, Aida, Color Purple as Shug Avery. Like, there's different leading women that I would love to have played. But I think ultimately the show that's for me hasn't been written yet, or I haven't wrote it yet. And I just want to be able to create something from top to bottom.
That's fantastic. Okay. So let me get to your other passions. Chondra, you are absolutely involved in, you have a lot of irons in the fire. Looking at, you're involved in a lot of organizations. In addition to pursuing your other passions. And then Frank, I know you're running a theater company as well. So this is going to go to both of you. Chondra, tell me about the organizations that you are affiliated with, and tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so I work with a lot of youth organizations. My mother has a TAA, which is a organization that basically helps teenagers excel in all facets, mainly through the arts, but in education, wherever. A lot of the people that we have that help in that sector are mostly artists, because it's something about learning to excel through the art that really clicks for like life lessons. And so that's one of the bigger one. I have another organization that I'm with called Be Beautiful. And it's for young women, and we teach like proper etiquette and different things like that, and it just teaches them to be you in all facets. A big thing that we teach is, being unapologetically great at everything that you do, and walking into spaces being that and being okay with that, because we're taught, especially as people of color, to kind of like, walk with your head down and kind of like, make sure it's okay to look up. And I'm teaching my kids like, no, you walk right in, and you come into the room prepared, one, and then when you are prepared, you're able to look people directly in the eye and have conversations with them and be unapologetically great at everything you do. So those are the two organizations that are pretty much right in forefront with me right now. But I do a lot with everyone. I'm a part of Broadway Serves and Broadway Cares, and we're trying to changing lives outside of the stage, and we do outreach with food banks and whatever, however we can do outreach. And it's our outreach has become a third limb. And you don't realize how much you are doing and changing lives until you get people coming back and saying like, dang, I'm so glad I took this class with you, or found this mentorship under you, or whatnot. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I do wherever I can, fit in, I'm gonna fit. If there's a little, I'm gonna go right in there and try.
Frank, tell us about New Threads Theater Company.
Yeah. New Threads Theater Company is a Inland Empire-based theater company that I've been running, I don't know, maybe 6 years now. Before the pandemic, the goal was to start a theater company that could possibly over the years grow into a regional theater for the Inland Empire. I was also looking for an avenue to create more opportunities for CBU students and alum and stuff like that, and just bring the community together. The vision and the mission of the company is to do theater about the complicated issues of our time. So everything you're not supposed to talk about at Thanksgiving dinner, we wanted to do theater about that stuff. It's the idea we're going to reach right across and grab the third rail and prove that people who hold vastly different opinions can be in a room with each other. After every show, there's a talk back. And we were trying to see, can we get people that the media has told them they'll never get along? And can we get them in the room with each other and get them talking and building community? So that is the goal. The pandemic has kind of retooled things for me. It's starting to make me focus more on, instead of building a regional theater, because quite honestly, with my job at CBU and the directing responsibilities I have there and with the Shakespeare Festival, it's become clear to me that that's a great goal to build a regional theater, but it might not be very realistic with the time demands that I have as the artistic director of the company. So now the focus is changing to finding plays that create these safe places to have difficult conversations, and then developing those plays and taking that play, whether it's a new work or a previously produced play, taking that play to whatever venue makes the most sense for that conversation. So if that's at the Box in downtown Riverside, we're going to do it there. If it's at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, we're going to do it there. If it's in LA, it's this idea that we're going to serve this play and have this conversation at the most influential focal point. So, yeah.
Gotcha. It looks like we lost Chondra. Mike, are you able to get her back, or do I need to message her? Okay, go ahead. Keep moving. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. What I want to do is do the questionnaire. Okay. And I'm just going to give a quick second here to see if we can get Chondra. There she is.
She's back.
She's back. Unmute yourself, sister. We got the questionnaire to do. All right. I love the questionnaire. James Lipton is my template of interview. I just again think he was the most gracious host ever. And he did this questionnaire that was designed. It's alter of Bernard Pivot's questionnaire. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you both the question. Okay, I'm just here, and if you don't have an answer, you can say you don't have an answer. Okay, as always, I'm going to go ladies first. In case my mother's watching, I don't want to get a phone call from her later. What is your favorite word?
No.
No is your favorite word?
Yes.
Okay. I'm interested. Why?
Because we're taught not to say no and be people pleasers. And so I have become comfortable with saying no.
Gotcha. Mm. Okay. Frank. Mm.
Well, first of all, I want to say I love that answer.
I have never heard that before. I was not expecting that. It's like my underwear at my butt clutch. I don't know how appropriate that was to say, but that's what just happened. So.
Well, I love that answer.
You said yes to something, right, and really just it made that same reaction, in a negative way.
I just wasn't expecting. I love that.
Yeah, I love it because the word no keeps you focused on your values and your priorities.
Absolutely.
I love that. I guess the first answer that comes to my mind is passion. Passion. Yeah.
Okay. Then Frank, then Chondra. Chondra, Frank, what is your least favorite word?
Oh my goodness. Right now, partisanship.
Ooh. I ain't mad with that one. Chandra?
My least favorite word or like phrase-ish is
That'll
like
work.
I can't.
Mhm.
Okay. Chandra, what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Passion.
Okay.
Mm.
To you, Frank.
Big ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frank, what turns you off?
Glamour.
Laziness.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Chandra, you first. What is your favorite cuss word?
Can I say it?
This is flagged for not for kids. No, so you're fine.
The F word. I mean, fuck.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's a good one. When all else fails, just you gotta roll that way.
Right.
Frank, this is the one I was told that you may not have an answer for, but if you do, you don't have
No,
to say.
I agree with Chandra's. I'm not gonna say it because I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
But
Okay,
nothing
so
has the emotional release. Like,
it doesn't.
and
It
if you
just-
don't throw it around a lot, when you do it, occasionally maybe in front of your students, it has impact.
Right. Hello.
And CBU, I would imagine it would
Right.
have a big impact.
Nothing locks it down the room real quick.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Frank, what sound or noise do you love?
The sound of my kids breathing when they're sleeping.
Oh,
That's
yes.
nice.
Yeah.
That is nice. Chandra.
I have to say the same. Like the sound, just my daughter's laugh,
Mm-hmm.
the breathing for sure while they're asleep. But on another, like more spiritual level, the sound of the ocean crashing.
Mm-hmm.
Chandra, what sound or noise do you hate?
Hate. I don't know. The sound of nagging. Is that a sound?
Yeah. If you aren't receiving in, it absolutely is a sound.
A sound of nagging, maybe like loud, like no reason bells or like just loud noise for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Frank.
The sound of any kind of rapper in a theater. A live theater. The movie theater, you eat your popcorn, do whatever you're going to do. But if you brought a rapper into a live theater, you're going to get a.
I think we can all relate to that.
Hilarious.
Well, because you can't do it quietly. No matter how great the rapper is, people are going to hear it.
They're like,
yes. And everyone gets that nasty look like, are you kidding me? You know,
It's the
so,
Lozenger, Martha.
absolutely.
Frank, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Theologian.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Chandra?
Before coming into my full artistry, I thought I was going to be a chef. So I was in culinary school and everything.
Wow. Chandra, what profession would you not like to do?
Anything that makes, you have to like get in the ocean, like go inside the ocean, be under there with the things that live in there.
kind of agree with that because you're looking at somebody who believes that Godzilla really does exist. So I ain't getting down like that. I'm with you on that one, sister. Frank.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that do this kind of work, but I could never do a job that required me to sit at a desk all day.
Yeah.
I don't have it in my personal makeup.
Gotcha. Last question. Frank, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I called you to minister to the American theater and you did a good job, son.
Chondra, same question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done. You did it all in excellence.
Okay, now this could have gone on all day, but I'm going to wrap this up because I know y'all got stuff going on. I know, Frank, you have plans, and I know, Chondra, you are always busy as well. I cannot thank you both enough. I cannot thank you both enough for doing this and giving up your time on a Saturday. I would love to have you back. If you would do me a favor and keep me posted of what you're doing. That way, as small as this little fish is, it can get the word out, and I'm happy to do that. So keep me posted what you're doing. I'm happy to have you back on together individually. Bring people with you. If you have something you want me to help you promote, I will do it. But I appreciate it. And I've said this earlier. We weren't on, but I said it. I think people heard me that I know a lot of talented people who are doing a lot of great things. You two are certainly part of that list. And I wish you much success in everything that you do. You're both gifts and blessings to the theater community. Absolutely, in every way, shape, and form. And I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you and love you both ridiculously.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. This was fun, yeah.
It was good. I could have done this all day. Theater people, we can talk all the time. We have zero.
Oh, I talk too much. I just get to go and go.
We have zero problem filling a space. Zero problem filling a space. I'm gonna let you guys go. Y'all have a great day. Okay. Love you both.
You too. Chondra, it was great meeting.